Alright, so Beyond the Spider-Verse is finally confirmed for 2027, which honestly feels like forever from now, but at least we have a date. This whole trilogy has been building towards something massive, and it looks like they're taking their time to actually deliver on that promise instead of rushing it out. Phil Lord and Chris Miller already confirmed that Miles' journey wraps up in this third installment, and with Marvel Studios apparently told to back off from the character until this animated arc finishes, you know they're planning something big for the finale. So let's talk about where we left off, because Across basically ended on one of the most brutal cliffhangers in recent animation. The whole second half of that movie was essentially set up for Beyond. Miguel drags Miles to Spider Society headquarters and drops this bomb on him about canon events, saying Miles messed everything up by saving Inspector Singh in Mumbattan. According to Miguel, these canon events are fixed points that can't be changed without destroying entire dimensions. Miles finds out his own dad is about to die because he's getting promoted to police captain, and apparently that's a canon event too. The Spot even showed Miles a vision of his father's death earlier in the film, so the writing was already on the wall. But Miles being Miles, he's not just gonna sit back and let his dad die. He bolts from the Spider Society, jumps into their dimension-hopping machine to get back home and save his father. Except there's a problem. The spider that originally bit Miles and gave him his powers wasn't even from his Earth. It was from Earth 42, so when Miles tries to go home, he ends up on Earth 42 instead, and that reality is completely different. His uncle Aaron is still alive there, his dad is already dead, and the Miles from that universe became the Prowler instead of Spider-Man. Meanwhile, back on Earth 1610, Gwen shows up after saving her own dad from his supposed canon death, only to realize Miles isn't there. She pulls together a team of spider heroes to track him down and bring him back. At CinemaCon earlier this year, directors Bob Persichetti and Justin Thompson showed off some new footage and images. They teased that Miles is basically running for his life, and his friends might not even be able to rescue him this time. There's this line from Miles in the footage where he says, everyone keeps telling him how his story is supposed to go, which perfectly captures his whole arc. We also got glimpses of Miles reuniting with Gwen, fighting the Prowler, and then apparently going on some kind of adventure with him. That last part is interesting because it suggests they're not just enemies, they might actually team up at some point. Beyond is definitely picking up right where Across left off. Miles is gonna have to escape from Uncle Aaron and the Prowler version of himself using those electric powers we saw him develop. Then he's racing against time to get back to his actual Earth and stop his dad from dying. How exactly he pulls that off is anyone's guess right now. Co-director Kemp Powers talked about how they designed that cliffhanger specifically to set up the third film, and he compared it to The Empire Strikes Back, which co-director Joaquim dos Santos also name-dropped as a major inspiration. Chris Miller promised the ending would be satisfying, so hopefully they stick the landing. After Across lost the Oscar for Best Animated Feature to The Boy and the Heron, Shameik Moore tweeted something cryptic about Beyond, basically saying the Spider-Verse has impacted tons of lives and to get ready for what's coming. He also told Screen Rant that fans should expect action, Miles and Gwen together, continuation of the story, more of the Spot, and plenty of problems to solve. Composer Daniel Pemberton mentioned the team is feeling serious pressure to close out the trilogy properly without dropping the ball like some third films do. In December, Persichetti and Thompson released a statement saying they've crafted what they believe is a very satisfying ending and they're bringing everything they've got. There's also apparently a Spider-Punk spin-off in development that Daniel Kaluuya is co-writing, so the universe isn't completely ending here. From what we know so far, the story starts with Miles stuck on Earth 42 meeting his Prowler counterpart. They're not going to be instant friends. This is going to be tense and competitive at first, with maybe some grudging respect developing over time. That's the kind of character work that made this series so good in the first place. Into the Spider-Verse literally changed animation as an art form with its mix of different frame rates, comic panel aesthetics, and that kinetic visual style that made every other studio rethink what animated films could be. Across pushed even further with deeper emotional stakes, wilder action sequences, and a multiverse that felt genuinely limitless. Beyond has to somehow top both of those while wrapping everything up in a satisfying way. Lord and Miller have said this is the hardest Spider-Verse film they've made. The technical demands alone are insane. You've got 6 different animation styles, dozens of characters and locations, endless concept art and rewrites, voice recording sessions across different cities, storyboarding, animation, post-production, scoring, editing. Sony promised Beyond would be more ambitious than the first two combined, which sounds almost impossible but also necessary given how high they set the bar. There's also speculation that maybe they're doing more than just finishing the trilogy. Maybe they're setting up future spin-offs, expanding Gwen's story, or even soft launching a new era of Spider-Man content. If they nail this, it could redefine what animated superhero movies can achieve. The opening of Beyond, based on recent stills, looks like it's diving straight into the Miles versus Prowler confrontation, but I don't think the Prowler is joining the main team. He'll probably show up later when it really counts, maybe during a third act twist or something involving alternate versions of Miles's parents. That's where the multiverse gets really interesting because it leaves so much room for theories and unexpected turns. When Miles eventually escapes Earth-42, that experience is going to change him. His alternate self challenges everything Miles believes about his place in the Spider-Verse. This all ties back to the canon event debate. Miguel insists certain things are fixed, like Miles losing his father, but Gwen's timeline proves that's not always true. Her dad was supposed to die, and he didn't, and her world is still standing. So maybe canon events aren't as rigid as Miguel thinks. Maybe it's just fear disguised as rules. Miles has always been about breaking expectations. He's an anomaly who refuses to follow a predetermined path. Across made that crystal clear, and Beyond is going to explore that theme even deeper as Miles faces impossible choices about fate, family, and what it means to be a hero. Earth-42 isn't just a setting, it's basically another character. It's dark and broken, but still alive. The Prowler represents what Miles could have become without hope or guidance. Their fight isn't just physical, it's about morality and the difference between optimism and despair. The first act will probably focus heavily on that dynamic, setting the emotional foundation for everything else. Miles is determined to write his own story and challenge Miguel's entire system, but the ending probably won't tie everything up neatly. Someone's likely paying a price, and Peter Parker feels like a strong candidate for a sacrifice play. The multiverse is chaotic enough that anything could happen. Reports suggest Beyond will introduce multiple new realities we haven't seen yet. Into the Spider-Verse focused mainly on Earth 1610, Across gave us Nueva York and Mumbattan, so it makes sense that Beyond would expand even further. There's actually buzz about a native English-speaking actor being cast for a secret character, which sparked rumors about Spider-Knight, a medieval armored Spider-Man from the comics. His world is supposedly designed with dark graphite and pencil textures, which would be visually incredible. But that's just one possibility. Beyond seems ready to blow the multiverse wide open with tons of alternate Spider-People and unique dimensions. Fans keep asking if Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, or Tom Holland will appear, but nothing's been confirmed and it seems unlikely for now. The main villain is still the Spot. By the end of Across, he became insanely powerful, basically unstoppable with brute force. He can hop between any reality instantly, pull out any villain from anywhere, even potentially jump into the MCU if the story went there. The only limits are what the producers decide to explore. That makes the Spot a massive opportunity for Sony to push the boundaries. By 2027, the MCU will be deep into its own multiverse stuff with Spider-Man 4 and the Avengers films, so the lines between universes could get completely blurred. Production on Beyond has been massive, as you'd expect. The Spot remains the central threat, and he could theoretically gather villains from across the multiverse and bring them all to Earth 1610 for one massive showdown. Chris Miller hinted that the third act will reach Avengers Endgame levels of scale. That final battle in Endgame was universe-defining, and it required a huge sacrifice from Tony Stark. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar with Peter Parker making a heroic choice that changes everything. That's the kind of stakes this trilogy has been building toward, and honestly, it feels like the only way to properly close out a story this ambitious.